Coming up, we'll talk the World of Outlaws late model series field, including the addition of Nick Hoffman. We've also got details on the BC39, Chili Bowl entries cross 300, and more. Let's go. It's Monday, December 12th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is Dirt Tracker Daily. Back on Friday, while we were talking the Lucas chase for the championship and the new eased restrictions and higher payouts from the Outlaws, there were a few other news items that broke, and I wanted to double back to talk about several of them today. We'll start first with Nick Hoffman joining Tye Twarog to go full-time with the World of Outlaws Late Model Series in 2023. This was the ride left open when Devin Moran departed to replace Hudson O'Neal with Double Down Motorsports. O'Neal obviously replacing Brandon Shepard in the Rocket House car. Isn't it funny? Bishop decides to leave Rocket, and it's created this whole domino effect of driver changes that's now led to Nick Hoffman being full-time with the World of Outlaws. Hoffman has been probably the most dominant driver in a dirt modified over the past maybe 5 or 8 years. He's won dirt car championships, modified nationals wins and titles. He's got a bunch of Gators from down at Volusia Dirt Car Nationals. And now finally a move to full-time late model competition. In between all of the modified success, we have seen Hoffman run scattered late model races, including a fill-in stint with Scott Bloomquist. Of drivers at other levels, Hoffman, at least to me, has been one of those guys you wanted to see take the next step. He's so good in a modified and has a ton of knowledge and expertise, and I'm excited to see how that translates to late models. And, on top of this, he's been running a chassis company as well. So if there's anybody who's got the technical knowledge that can do this, it's definitely Hoffman. The Twarog operation will run out of Hoffman's shop in North Carolina and will include one of Tye's employees from the Devin Moran days and Hoffman's guy, Mason. He told Flow Racing that he's done everything he wanted to do in a modified and that this was the time to make the change. He'll have support from NOS Energy Drink, among various other sponsors both he and Twarog will bring to the team. Besides the full Outlaw slate, he'll fit in other big shows with series like Lucas and at Eldora, so you probably see Hoffman maybe 70-ish races next year. I don't know about you, but I really like how this Outlaw field is shaping up for 2023. Right now, we've got Tanner English, Max Blair, Boom Briggs, Peyton Freeman, Chris Madden, Todd Cooney, and now Nick Hoffman. That's 7, and if we add back Dennis Erb Jr. and some of the other full-timers, you look at maybe Gundaker, if Ryan Gustin comes back, what's happening with Shane Clanton. I think we could be in for one hell of a season on the Outlaw side. Over on the Lucas side, we know Rocket and O'Neal are going that direction, and I assume names like Tim McCready and Ricky Thornton Jr. will return. We still don't know which direction Shepard is going with his new team, but I think either way it's going to be a lot of fun. The national tours are looking pretty good for next year right now on the dirt late model side of things. In sprint car racing, the final big shoe to drop should be out at some point today with the high limit schedule set to be released. There are a ton of rumors flying around about which dates, which tracks, money, all sorts of other crazy things. But we'll wait and see what ends up being official here. Once that's out, I'm sure that teams will then start deciding what their plans are for next year and who is going which directions. Stay tuned for that throughout the day. This is, like I said, this is the last shoe to drop because we've got the All-Star schedule, we've got the Outlaw schedule. We know what the Outlaws are doing with the Platinum Agreement and the easing of the restrictions and the more money available. So hopefully once this high limit schedule comes out, we'll have some idea about which teams are going which directions. When we talked the USAC midget schedule back on Friday, we didn't have the BC39 dates just yet, but they ended up being released on Friday as well. The event at the dirt track at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is moving to September and becoming a 4-day event, the 27th through the 30th. The release says we are getting a new format, but we don't know yet what that is. This had been a midweek show in previous years, but will now be a standalone weekend for the series. With the big USAC weekend not returning, you have to think that USAC is probably looking at this as a possible chance to build another crown jewel into that schedule. Now, I had a bunch of people ask about Terre Haute missing from the USAC schedules, and after all the things that happened there in 2022 with promoter Scott Ronk and the Fair Board, probably not a good sign for the future of that racetrack. It's not on either the Silver Crown or the Sprint Car schedule for 2023, and those are the places where it's kind of been a staple. Some TBAs do still remain, so maybe it could be added at a later date, but we'll just have to wait and find out. And speaking of midgets, Chili Bowl is now across 300 total entries for the event coming up here in January. As of last Friday, we're sitting at 308 cars right now. We did get the Chad Boat cars added, but still no Keith Coons lineup. And I had also previously mentioned Clausen Marshall, but I've heard in the days since that CMR has gotten rid of all of their midgets. They brought 5 cars a year ago with entries for Tyler Courtney, Emerson Axsom, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Corey Day, and Ryan Newman. Of those 5 drivers, Corey Day right now is listed for 2023 in a Matt Wood ride, and Axsom is with Reinbold Underwood. Nothing right now for Stenhouse, Newman, or Sunshine. We know Kyle Larson isn't racing because of the purse situation, and we're waiting to see maybe who else decides to sit this one out. The KKM entries, when they are added, I think should provide some clarity, and that's where maybe names like Rico and Seabell would be possibles. David Gravel said he's not racing, and Brad Sweet has not been happy in the past about the Chili Bowl payout, so he's another one we could see maybe not entered. So stay tuned for that one. Couple of the other news items for you today. On top of a USAC National Sprint Car event for 2023, the Action Track USA in Pennsylvania will also host the Short Track Super Series next year. Northeast Modifieds on that bull ring should be a wild time. Kudos to the Action Track for scheduling some big time series for next year. Also, over the weekend, we saw a few changes to some Ohio-based sprint car teams, actually a couple of Ohio-based sprint car teams. Greg Wilson is departing the Ceiling 97 after a couple of seasons together, and he's going to return to his own W20 ride for next year. The Ceiling team with Andy Potter are now replacing Wilson with J.J. Hickle. Hickle spent last year with Brandon Eikenberry in the Midwest, which included a Knoxville Nationals feature start for them. Potter said on Facebook they're targeting the Outlaw and All-Star shows in Ohio, plus Fast and AFCS races and a trip to Knoxville. Before we close out, I wanted to briefly mention the USMTS schedule for next year. It came out a few days back, but I hadn't gotten a chance to talk about it just yet. 44 nights of racing, $2 million in purse money, and the champion again takes down $100,000. Not bad for modifieds. They're starting in early March at Rocket Raceway Park and are closing out at Arrowhead Speedway in October. Dustin Sorensen was the 2022 series champion for the USMTS. If you want to see that full schedule, head over to usmts.com. And there are 3 items on today's streaming schedule, if I can find the right button here. Dirt Vision has the iRacing World of Outlaws and Dirt Vision Now. There's also Flow Racing 24/7. To see the full daily streaming schedule with links to watch, visit dirttracker.com/watch tonight. All right, that's it for the show today. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you don't do so already. We'll be back here tomorrow for more Dirt Tracker Daily.